And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, my name's Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Railroad Rivals, a fast-paced tycoon game from Glen Drover. This is a railroad stock market game of cube delivery. This is not the first game in the genre. It is not even the 100th game in this genre. It's a very crowded group of games about delivering goods from one spot to the other. Now this one focuses almost solely on the stocks. The cubes exist on the board as only a methodology of moving up the value of the stocks. It's based on historical trains that have been in America, and you are going to outbid each other with a little bit of auctioning, tile placement, tile drafting, and just trying to figure out the best way to optimize getting points. Here's how it plays. In this game, players are trying to get the most points. They're going to get points through two ways. As the game progresses, you'll get points for various things. And players will also be collecting stocks as the game goes by. And at the end of the game, each stock that you have is going to be worth points equal to where the value of that particular line of the train is. Players are going to be one of the 5 colors. They'll get all the trains of that color, and you'll also put a marker of your color at the top where you could be Smokey Joe Brown or Christine Dover or Emma Virginia or Ronnie O'Connor, and you're just going to put these here at the top, and that's going to be showing the player turn order for each round. Actually, each round of the game, players are going to be bidding. You're going to be bidding points, and now the first round is already set. The points are already there. But after that, players are going to be bidding points, and whoever bids the most points is going to move to the front of the round, and then that's the turn order. There's a variant in the book that I recommend that you play instead, where each player will bid for turn order, and the first person to pass is last, the second person to pass is second last, etc., etc. And then the final person will actually pay their bid and be in the front. Either way, players are going to, each turn of the game, going to be drawing stock market tiles equal to the number of players. Let's say you're playing a 5-player game. We'd put some stock market tiles here. We got ACL, the CPQ MP Railroad, up, CPQ MP Railroad, there's 2 of those, and SR, the Southern Railway. We'll also put out cities equal to the number of players. Then, starting with the first person, go around the table, and you're going to draft a tile. You can draft a city or a stock. However, we're going to go around twice, and the second time you pick one, you have to pick the one you didn't pick. So my first turn, if I take New Orleans, and other players take these, when it comes back to me, I need to take a stock. So let's say I take this one. Now we're going to start this game with a map that's being built, and this map will start with one of 3 different cities, and in this particular game that city happens to be Cincinnati. So once everyone has drafted their 2 tiles, then each person's going to take a turn placing one of their city tiles. Now you already will have a couple city tiles in your hand. So here I have Kansas City and Los Angeles, and now I've just drafted Charleston, and you're going to pick one of those tiles and connect it with the tiles already on the board. When you connect it with tiles on the board, you have to match one of the railroads that is out there. If you don't have any of the railroads that are out there, then you don't put out a tile. But if you can, you have to match. So for example, for the first person to go, they're going to have to match B&O, PRR, or C&O on one of their tiles that they have. So if I have, for example, Indianapolis, I might connect the C&O like that because they connect. And then I would put a train of my color between those 2 cities. And the new city I put out, Indianapolis, has a number 1 on it. I would draw a cube from the bag and put it on that number 1. The bag is going to be full with 1 to 4 different colors, depending on the number of, or 2 to 4 different colors, depending on the number of players that are in the game. After everybody has placed, so let's say this happens, and that happens, and someone plays that. By the way, you don't have to match both sides, but if you do match both sides, you get to put a train on both of those, but you don't have to match both of the sides. And so let's see. and the black player places one here. And then we put, of course, the cubes will be coming out each time these cities are being placed out on the board. And in fact, there would be cubes on this starting city also. So there's a lot of different cubes around the board of various colors. Each player then is going to deliver a cube. You're simply just going to deliver a cube from one tile to another tile using one of the links that's there. So maybe I'm the blue player, I move the brown cube here. Now if you're the first person to deliver a color, you get 3 points. If you're the second person to deliver a color, you get 2 points. After that you get 1 point for delivering these. So obviously the colors, they have no other differentiation in that. You're just trying to be the first to deliver a color. If you deliver it over someone else's link, that person is going to get 2 points too. So you kind of want to go over your own if possible, but sometimes you're going to be forced to move a different one. Not only that, this one moved over the B&O Railroad, so the B&O Railroad is going to move up one on their stock track, wherever that might be. After everyone has done this, you'll draw more tiles and you'll start the next round and you'll keep going. Near the end of the game, instead of having a stock and a city tile out, you're just going to have 2 stock tiles out. People will be drafting stocks and going from that point. And at the end of the game, you're going to take your stock value, add it to your point value, and whoever has the most is the winner. I should also mention that there are hotels and a water tower. This is if you bought the first edition of the game. These hotels get extra points if you deliver goods to the city that they're in, and water towers do different things that you will do when you deliver out, etc. There's some rules for them, and each player can place one of those once per game. The game has really nice components. These tiles here are extremely thick, really well nice. I would say that they tried to go with some very, historical onto how these tiles look, but it's not always because of that. It's not always easy to tell them at a glance which ones are which. And not only that, sometimes, like for example, this is the B&O Railroad stock tile, and this is the piece that moves. If you notice, they're not the same. And that's problematic to me because when we need to move the B&O Railroad, it's that one. No, it's this one. I get that they're trying to show, I guess, 2 different symbols. I would have preferred they be the same one. The trains, the tiles, the artwork on these, all that's great, and everything else is nice with the bag to pull the cubes out of. All that's perfectly fine, and everything fits well in the box. I cannot be adamant enough on how much I will only play this game with the alternate auction rules, because otherwise the auctions aren't as interesting, since basically whoever wins the auction then doesn't participate in the next auction. They'll maybe bid a couple points just to push the price up a bit, but then they're fine because they know they're going to be second. And the third person has a little bit more push than that, and it's basically the 4th and the 5th player in a 5-player game who will fight over being first, and then in a 4-player game, the 3rd and the 4th player, and it just seems like it's this constant, you might as well just take turns going first around the table. And occasionally someone will break the cycle, but it doesn't happen very often. With the first person passing going out, that brings a completely different dynamic to the game, and I like that way much better. I also, if possible, will always play with the water tower and hotels because they just add a little bit of stuff to the game. I said the components of this game were very good, and I mean it. Other than that, the tokens don't always match the stocks. I found that a little odd, but other than that, I think the components are great. However, one thing I did not like about the components was, as the game progresses, you figure, I don't see many tiles that have a whatever train line is on it. I see a whole lot of this train line. I don't see a lot of others. So I went to check, and lo and behold, they aren't all the same. There is not an equal number of each of the trains in there. Well, that's all well and good. I understand that they did it for historical purposes, the different trains, but that would have been an incredibly useful reference card, because there's no way on earth I'm going to be buying a stock that I can't, that's barely going to show up. Or I might buy it, but I'm not going to put the same amount of effort into getting that stock as I might to be getting others. And having a reference card, knowing which stocks have the chance of being more valuable, would have been really useful. And in fact, if I was keeping the game, I would print it up and put it in the game. That's how critical I think that is. And the moving the things around, I mean, this is a game where you're giving points all the time. So yes, I'll take 3 points to give you 2 points, which in a 5-player game is fine because I'm still 3 points ahead of everybody else. I'm only 1 point ahead of you. Am I willing to take 2 points and give you 2 points to be ahead of everybody else? That's a little different. Not to mention, do I move this stock up because I have 2 of it, you have 1 of it, so that essentially gives me 1 more point than you. But of course, I'm hoping to get the other copy of that stock when it shows up. So there's a lot of little thoughts in your mind as you're manipulating these points around, and it works well. The system's there. It's a little sterile, but a lot of these train games are, you know, the whole fact that I don't even care, yellow cube, brown cube, gray cube, whatever. We're just delivering them, and the first one gets 3 points of each color, etc. So I don't mind that concept of moving everything up, but as the game progresses, you will find yourself sometimes maybe withdrawing from the game, kind of thematically wise, and just sitting there and counting numbers. It's a very mathy game, and if you like math, you'll be involved with that. The one more thing I'm not a big fan of, if you can't match a tile, you don't play one. I don't like starting the game with a disadvantage, and at the very beginning of the game, there's a very good chance that would happen, to the point where I would just introduce a house rule that there's a mulligan. If you can't play a tile, then you can draw another stock or something where you can play a tile. That everyone should be able to play a tile on their first turn. After that, fine, we bid it up, but it seems kind of blah at the beginning of the game to not get one of your trains out on the board, which could put you conceivably pretty far behind. So this game for me is decent. It's not something that I'm rushing to knock the doors down. However, I can see a lot of people who like this one, right? A lot of people who like the manipulating the stocks. I mean, it's not huge wild swings of the stocks, they're just slowly creeping up. There's building the map. Sure, it's kind of a weird map because you're going to have Minneapolis south of Los Angeles, which is directly adjacent to Miami. Well, maybe. I mean, because of the train lines, it won't be that dramatic on how they fix, but it's probably not going to build the actual map of America. It's probably going to be a lot off. But I don't mind all that. If you take the theme out and you're just looking at this and this and this to get numbers, I think a lot of people will like that. For me, it wasn't bad. I wish there was a little bit more theme. It's almost a little bit too streamlined, and a couple of those small problems I mentioned. Other than that's fine. I think I like it best with either 2 or 5. Because with 2, there's this back and forth thing. The auction barely matters. Or if it does matter, it's like, who's going first this turn? Back and forth, back and forth. With 5 players, there's a whole lot more tiles, a lot more interaction, and the chance of me buying stocks and they affecting me and one other person doesn't matter as much as in a 3-player game. There's a chance we all own the same stocks, which makes the stock part of the game not as interesting. I mean, you're not going to have the exact same stocks, but, oh, we all have a share of this. Then why do I care if it goes up or not? But in a 5-player game, that's not going to happen. And in a 2-player game, it's probably not going to happen either. So this is one of those games I think I like it best with the extreme numbers of players. Anyway, that's my thought on Railroad Rivals. Like I said, very well-produced game. I think a lot of people will enjoy it, and I find it okay for myself. Dice Tower Judgment, an interesting stock market game.